She's been here almost 3 decades and worn virtually every hat here at Brook Green Gardens. Who is she? You'll find out coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning at the Holiday Cottage at Brook Green Gardens. We're focused on Brook Green Gardens, and we were visiting with its Vice President and Curator of Sculpture, Robin Salmon. Good morning, Robin.
Good morning, Greg.
Thank you so much for coming in. I hope I got your title right.
It's correct.
That's a title you've had for a little while.
Just a little, few years. Yeah.
After 29 years now here at Brook Green Gardens.
That's right.
You've probably worn quite a few hats here.
Believe.
Yeah, that is hard to believe. I hate to tell you I'm 33 because that would make you, well, no, that should make you feel.
We won't worry about that.
That's right. No, you started here in kindergarten.
That's
so,
right.
That's it. Tell me real quick about what brought you to Brook Green Gardens.
Well, we moved to the coast. We actually moved to Georgetown. And I began to look for a job and just really lucked into this. It was one of those being in the right place at the right time situations.
Right.
So I just have enjoyed every minute of it.
Because it dovetailed real well into what you'd studied.
It's amazing. Most people have to go far away from home to get the kind of work that they really want to do or that they've trained to do. And I found it here in my own backyard.
Wow. Speaking of home, are you originally from the area?
I'm from Columbia.
Okay, right. So you're from the Palmetto State. That's
right.
Of course, you know the bulk of our viewers are in the PD and southeastern North Carolina. Albeit folks, Brook Green Gardens gets folks from all over the world, but particularly this area, the Carolinas and the Low Country.
That's true.
There's a heck of a lot of folks here. Bob Jewell was with us yesterday and really singing your praises, of course, from your incredible knowledge of Brook Green, as well as just how you're helping him mold into being a better CEO, having just ascended to that position. But one of the things we talked about was so many aspects of Brook Green that someone could wrap around.
That's right. Brook Green has literally something for everyone. And I can't think of another place that can offer such strong offerings in so many different spots. We've got world-class art. We've got beautiful plants, both native and exotic. We have native wildlife. We have fantastic history. The story of the Huntingtons who founded Brook Green is amazing. The story of the property before it became Brook Green Gardens is amazing as well. So there's literally something for everybody.
Wow, just hearing you, I'm just riveted hearing you talk about that. You're right, there really is something for everything. One of the things Bob pointed out yesterday is family memberships. I know there's individual memberships, but family memberships as reasonable as $75 a year, 25 cents a day, or less than that.
Exactly.
A day, and that aspect of being able to get in year-round, come down every day, or come down once a month, or once a year even, but that excitement of encouraging others and all your family to come down.
Well, that's right, and with certain memberships, you also receive guest passes so that you can bring your friends.
That's exactly
even if you pay the admission, it's still incredible. You get to come in for 7 days on that one ticket.
Is that right?
Yes.
I did not know that. So someone paid, as you said, very reasonably, even if the price was twice of what it is now, paying that to have that opportunity to come for an entire week. So it's really highlights for a lot of tourists in the area as well.
That's true, and we're also an outdoor experience. So if the weather isn't cooperating at the exact moment that you visit, then you have 6 more days to come back.
That's a great point. And weather's been so funny for us, obviously, last week and this past weekend with hurricanes coming to the area, all that aspect. And, of course, you all have a lot to think about at Brook Green and an expansive acreage like this. You've got a lot of both the sculpture and you can't, I guess, really protect the trees, but the sculpture, how do y'all go about preparing?
We really can't do anything to protect the sculpture either, because we've learned through the years that anything that's placed out there in the form of a cover becomes another airborne object in high wind. So it's better to to just remove as much as can be removed, such as trash cans and large signs that might be uprooted, and put those away. We've got a long disaster plan checklist to go through, depending on how the weather is, whether it's a watch, a warning.
Real thing or
yes,
otherwise,
I
sure.
mean it's like a big machine that
Right.
goes into action.
Rob, I mentioned earlier that your field of study was very similar to actually landing here at Brook Green. Can you share with the viewers, A, where you studied, and B, what that field of study was? And I know you've done a lot of continuing education.
Sure.
Highlight for them a little bit of that.
Well, I attended the University of South Carolina, and I have degrees in history and art history, and then also have taken graduate classes at Coastal Carolina University when it was a campus, regional campus of the University of South Carolina. And that's how I met Charles Joyner, the area historian and folklorist, who is a marvelous resource for everyone in the region.
Sure.
And then later, as my time here at Brook Green grew longer, I was eligible to apply for the Museum Management Institute, which is a program of the American Federation of Arts and the J. Paul Getty Trust. And this is for museum professionals who have been in their jobs for a certain time period and have management duties, and that's held at the University of California at Berkeley. And that was a marvelous experience.
I bet, yes.
Yes.
Now, when you're out there and talking to folks about the experiences of Brook Green, it's probably difficult to share with. I mean, it's almost impossible to share. Are there other folks that are in a similar expansive facility like Brook Green?
Well, there are botanic gardens, there are historic sites, there are historic homes, but there really isn't anything that's exactly like Brook Green Gardens.
Bob and I were both wondering yesterday, is Brook Green the largest outdoor sculpture garden in the world?
Yes, it is.
Oh, come on. It's
It
for
is.
real, yeah.
For
I thought
real.
we were both probably wrong, but it is.
Yes, we have more than 900 pieces of sculpture in the collection, and on any given day when you visit, you will see about 550 of those pieces of sculpture. And we also borrow a few pieces from time to time for indoor exhibitions. We have two great indoor galleries and have changing exhibitions throughout the year.
I think I saw, Robin, you're also a certified appraiser and maybe have a degree or a license from the American Society of Appraisers?
Well, it's I have a certificate.
Okay.
And I'm not yet certified.
Oh, okay. Excuse me. Yes, forgive me. That's a big word, certified.
We have to make that clear, but I'm working in that direction. Now, that's not to say that people can bring their sculpture here and I can appraise it for them. This is strictly within my own field here at Brook Green.
Right.
It helps me in assessing the collection, and it's just an add-on to my education that's an important thing to have.
Share with viewers again what your first position was here at Brook Green and how that's evolved. You've worn so many hats, I know, here at Brook Green over that 29-year tenure, but
Yes.
share with them a little bit about that evolution, both for yourself as well as for folks around you.
Well, I really began assisting in the office here at Brook Green. Gurdon Tarbox was the president of Brook Green at that time, and his wife, Ann, was the secretary, receptionist, bookkeeper. And I worked with Ann closely. The two of us did all of the office work. And eventually my training in history began to be utilized. When we were looking at Brook Green's 50th anniversary in 1981, I did a lot of the research on the history of the property for a publication that came about at that time. And, I paid bills, I did payroll, I worked part-time in the old Visitors Pavilion, which had our shop and was the place where visitors could get information. I worked out in the old ticket booth. I think I did everything here except work on the gardening crew. Wasn't exactly qualified for that.
There's certain aspects you can't do at all.
No.
But as Bob talked about yesterday, I bet Robin's seen virtually. I guess it's almost impossible to see virtually everything out here because there's still so much. You've seen so many nooks and crannies.
That's right.
But there's still so many more. I guess you'd never see it all.
Oh yes, just over 9,000 acres, and nature changes continuously.
Right.
Of course, the sculpture collection continues to grow.
Yeah.
All of our collections, in fact, continue to grow and change. So nothing ever stays still. There is always something exciting right around the corner.
Golly, Robin, yeah, thinking about that. Of course, one of the exciting things, speaking about something right around the corner, today at 5 o'clock, y'all are having a Meet the Artist open house.
That's right.
Now, is that something that if a viewer was seeing the show this morning, they could still get down here for, or is that already closed out?
No, there is still anyone who has an interest in meeting Anthony Antonius,
Okay.
who is our third Keenan Master Sculptor here this year.
Mm-hmm.
He is a sculptor in residence here for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Will be in the Genuine Gallery at 5, and they can meet and greet him and see
Right.
his sculpture that's exhibited there in the Six Masters exhibit.
Okay.
That includes work by all of the Keenan Master Sculptors that we had in 2003 as well as 2004.
Now, would this be exclusive, Robin, again, to individual members or family members, or would it be open to folks who just bought a ticket today?
Well, we sent a special invitation to our members.
Right, sure.
But anyone who walks past the gallery or happens to be in the gallery at that time may certainly participate.
Great.
And the more the merrier.
How exciting. Well, there's so many things going on all the time. I know one of the things, the Cool Summer Evening Program, which has been going on since, I believe, mid-June and wraps up the last 3 nights, or tonight, tomorrow night, and Friday night.
Yes.
For viewers who may not be familiar with that, just a little plot as to exactly what that is and why a viewer would want to come in from Lumberton and Laurinburg maybe over the next couple of days to be here Friday night,
Sure.
if not tonight or tomorrow night.
Well, the wonderful thing is that Brook Green is open in the evenings on those 3 nights, and it's just a beautiful experience first,
Mm-hmm.
a cooler experience
Yes,
than
that's right.
the heat of the day, but each night there is special entertainment.
Oh, yeah.
So on Wednesday night we have drama
Right.
with Aaron and Theodosia.
Oh, wow.
Thursday night is special events geared toward children and families.
Great.
And Friday night is jazz out in the gardens.
Oh, wow. So a big 3 nights, yeah.
And food. We have to mention the food and beverage that
Yes.
our pavilion restaurant provides in the form
Right.
of picnic baskets, wonderful array of food that you can choose from, put your own menu together,
Oh, yeah.
and beer, wine, and soft drinks, water. It's a great way to experience the gardens in the evening.
And if a viewer wanted to learn more, they could call the 843-235-6000 number.
That's
to learn
right.
a little bit about the Cool Summer Evening Program, what they'd have to pay, I guess, in addition to getting in to Brook Green Gardens. There'd be a little bit to cover that picnic.
Just for the food.
Right,
That's
sure,
it.
just to cover
Yes.
the food itself.
That's right.
How exciting. And, of course, y'all are
Yes.
open virtually year-round, Robin. I think I saw it from 9 a.m. to 5:30,
Yes, we're
virtually every day.
every day but Christmas Day.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it's, as I said earlier, there is just nothing else like it.
Was there, when you think about that aspect, of course, your position having evolved so much, Robin, that excitement for you having worn so many hats and knowing so many nooks and crannies, but now at the position as Vice President, Curator of Sculpture, what has that evolved into? And you've held that position, I know, for a good while. That continues to evolve.
It does. It does. Every time we acquire a new piece of sculpture or do research on something already in the collection, that job evolves. I now have an assistant curator working with me, Danny Caudill, who is marvelous. We have a sculpture preparator, Dee Hamilton, who is out in the gardens caring for the sculpture and moving it. Obviously, I'm not moving 15,000-pound pieces of sculpture
Who
by
is?
myself.
Yeah.
Well, the 3 of us, sometimes with the help of equipment, but you'd be surprised what you can do with levers and pulleys.
With 15,000 pounds, my Lord, yeah.
Yeah, so that's our sculpture department, 3 people, and we work beautifully together.
Right, I was thinking about back 29 years ago. You know, maybe you had the same amount of people. Probably not. You've probably grown quite a bit as the different programs, the treks and the programs and excursions and more facilities to get a little food and to quench folks' thirst while they're out here.
Sure. Well, the education program is always evolving. There's a variety of things available for the daily visitor as well as for school groups, scheduling in advance to come for special programs. We have the Trekker Tour, as you mentioned, that takes you into the outlying areas, and you see plantation sites, cemeteries, the remains of a rice mill. It's just something that you don't get to see otherwise, except on this tour.
Again, as you said, something for everyone.
That's right.
Something for everyone. Share with viewers real quick, Robin, how Brook Green Gardens began.
Brook Green actually began as the idea of Archer and Anna Huntington. They purchased this property in 1930 as a winter home. Anna Hyatt Huntington was one of the foremost sculptors of the 20th century, and she had developed tuberculosis. And her doctor had advised her to live in a warmer winter climate. They lived in New York City at that time. So they heard about this property being for sale, and within a year they had decided to create a sculpture garden. And initially the collection that was placed included works that she had done and pieces from their personal collection by other sculptors. But very soon they realized that this could turn into something that was special and different. And the fact is that they weren't doing something that had never been done before, because this really was the way it was in ancient times. Sculpture outdoors was how sculpture began for religious purposes. And they just borrowed this idea from ancient civilizations, knowing that few people would really want to come and see a sculpture collection within the walls of a museum. But when that exhibit or collection is exhibited outdoors among plants and animals, with the wind and the birds and the rain, beautiful blooming flowers, then it takes on an entirely different kind of atmosphere. So a lot of people come to see the gardens, but they're also seeing some of the finest sculpture ever made in America at the same time.
Oh, that's powerful, and I think that's all right here in our backyard.
It is. Right
here in the backyard. Whether you're whether you're in Laurinburg or Lumberton right now, or right here in the Pawleys Island, Waccamaw Neck. It's right in your backyard.
It's fantastic.
That must be really easy to wake up in the morning and go to work, Robin. You're not really working.
Well,
I mean, this is so thrilling for you.
When people ask me, how can you have stayed in one place for so long, I always say, have you seen the place?
Yeah.
It's that wonderful.
Wow, Robin, we've got about 7 minutes, and you think of the sculpture garden's a primary feature at Brook Green Gardens. How important is the planning of the gardens, and who's involved in designing those plannings during the year?
Well, of course, the placement of sculpture has to dovetail with the landscape design. And Jim Martin, who is our Vice President for Horticulture, is in charge of that aspect of Brook Green, as well as the collection that the plants create as species, different species here. We have over 2,000 species. And
2,000?
Yes. Yes, including some that are endangered. Now, that's not to say that you will walk through the sculpture garden and suddenly see an endangered species. Many of plants like that are in the outlying areas, in the protected habitats.
Right.
But the planning for placing the sculpture and what to plant is something that the sculpture department and the horticulture department do together.
Robin, share with the viewers, what is the Center for American Sculpture, or the American Center for Sculpture?
It's the Center for American Sculpture. Okay. Initially, the Center for American Sculpture was all of the programming that Brook Green has always done, and the teaching, educational programs that we've had through the years, so that it was put together under one umbrella, if you will, using that title. Then last year, a building was renovated on the property. Our old educational center, in fact, became the Carroll A. Campbell Jr. Center for American Sculpture. And this is where we now have our master classes, sculpture master classes, as well as the sculptors in residence, the Keenan Master Sculptors.
Like tonight, they
Yes.
meet the artist.
Yes, Anthony Antonius has been here for a week so far, and he's been working in the studio there at the Center for American Sculpture.
Right.
And he's also going to give a public, giving his public lecture coming up on Sunday.
How exciting, Robin. So
Yes.
many things going on. Well, that must be thrilling for you.
It is thrilling. It's wonderful because, I mean, we've got the best collection of its kind anywhere. It makes sense because the collection is American sculpture, that this is the Center for American Sculpture. And I think most other museums agree with us.
Yeah. Robin, how do you go about planning the programs for the rest of this year? I'm sure you already have the rest of this year knocked out, but for next year, how do you go about making the decisions? And for folks, is there tuition associated with this? How are the costs covered? What would be some of the ways if a viewer was interested in learning more? Obviously, they could call the main number.
That's right. We do have tuition fees. The Keenan Master Sculpture program is funded by a grant from the Keenan Foundation in North Carolina.
Right.
And that grant funds the Sculptor in Residence program and pays for the sculptor's travel, pays for a stipend for the artist, as well as accommodations while the artist is here in residence. But the classes that are taught do have tuition fees and model and program fees connected with the material fees. And they vary depending on the length of the class. These master classes are geared toward intermediate and advanced students.
Okay.
And so these are oftentimes professional sculptors who are coming to our master classes, as well as very advanced amateur sculptors. We have workshops that we are beginning to offer again this fall in sculpture that are geared more toward the beginner and intermediate student. But these are taught by nationally known sculptors as well.
How exciting for them.
So as far as our Keenan Master Sculptors go, they are nominated and approved by our Board of Trustees. And then I work on the schedule, and trying sometimes to get their schedules worked out for them is the hardest part of all. It's not so much to get them to say, yes, I'll come. It's when I can come that's difficult for these very busy people.
Bob, we've had some guests in the past. I think of a couple in particular who've been down here, Grant Singleton, Nancy Davis, who've been through the program, talk about it, or through one of the classes themselves, talk about it as one of the most exhilarating experiences that have ever happened.
That's right.
Really helped to shape what they do now on a regular basis in their creations.
We're very happy with the way this program has begun to mature. And I'm very excited as well about being able to offer again some classes for beginners. We've got that very high caliber instructor as well as a high caliber student. That's working out beautifully. Now we can reach out to people who maybe need some more basic instruction.
What's to wrap up, the most exciting or rewarding part of your job at the Center for American Sculpture, or I guess in a greater scale at Brook Green Gardens?
Well, obviously one of the most rewarding things is just being here. I mean, coming to such an incredible place every day is just like a slice of heaven. And then the second part would be the people. You know, we've got great people here. We have wonderful volunteers, getting to know the artist, the artists, getting to know these students that come from across the United States. It's just fantastic.
That's great.
I'm looking forward to the next 29 years.
I'm sure you are. Robin, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Stay tuned to more Carolina People with Robin Salmon coming up next. A 9,000-acre preserve. Could you imagine going to a 9,000-acre preserve every day for 29 years? Those other simple words, a slice of heaven, a slice of heaven. It's names like Anna Hyatt Huntington, Charles Joyner, and even more apropos tonight in Anthony Antonius. Exciting on a constant basis, seeing new things, new places, 200, maybe 2,000. It could be 200,000 different species out here. It's amazing to think about the commitment on a constant basis, an ever-evolving basis. Robin Salmon.